Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching the Flaming Coq Podcast. I'm your host Hayden Morris. Didn't do a show last week for Reconciliation Week, very busy at work, but hopefully we can get some sponsors for this show so then I don't have to work. Yeah? Anyway, let's start the show. A lot of news as I was off last week. It builds up, but I think the biggest news would be former middleweight champion in the UFC, Michael Bisping, retired. He said he is having vision problems. I think it was caused by the kick Vitor Belfort done, and he says he has nothing left to prove. He was Ultimate Fighter champion, middleweight champion. He fought a who's list of great fighters, with Dan Henderson, fought him twice, Anderson Silva, Luke Rockhold, and I think, yeah, why not hang up? He's fought everybody. He's coming off of 2 losses, the decision loss to George St. Pierre for the middleweight title, and his last fight, a brutal knockout to the hands of Kelvin Gastelum. But yeah, there was discussions of him possibly fighting Luke Rockhold for a second time, but that got nixed when Rockhold he got a knee injury and is out now. He was meant to fight. There was discussion of him fighting Nick Diaz in his return fight, but we'll get into that in a second. But Bisping, he retires with 30 wins and 9 losses, and he's been around since 2003. He's tied for the most wins in the UFC at 20. He's tied with George St. Pierre and Cowboy Cerrone. He also holds the record for 16 wins in middleweight, so most wins in middleweight, and the most knockout wins in middleweight at 7. But speaking of Nick Diaz, he was recently arrested on domestic battery charges. He was felony domestic battery by strangulation and misdemeanor domestic battery. So we'll see how that unfolds, but it doesn't look good for his fight in future. It's good that he went and done this right after he came off that USADA suspension, that suspension was coming off another even longer suspension. This might be the last we really hear of him. He hasn't fought since 2015 against Anderson Silva, which was a no contest because both the guys were on drugs. Anyway, over in Bellator, after winning the middleweight championship, Gegard Mousasi called out welterweight champion Rory MacDonald. Rory Max, he jumped at the chance. Why not? That's a fun fight. If you chuck Rory Mack in with anybody, it's going to be a good fight. Gegard Mousasi is one of the best in the world. Arguably the best middleweight in the world. You know, him versus Whittaker, the two top dogs at middleweight. Who knows? But even though Mack and Mousasi say yes, Bellator president Scott Coker says no. Apparently, Rory Mack has been toying with the idea of going to middleweight for a while now, and Mack might be involved, possibly, according to Scott Coker, in a 170-pound Grand Prix, like Bellator is doing up at heavyweight. But Coker also said that there are, and I quote, great fights ahead for Gegard Mousasi, but he hasn't ruled it out indefinitely. He said it could still happen. I think he wants to get Coker wants to get his plans done, get the the welterweight Grand Prix, get a few big fights for Mousasi, and then we'll see what happens. Let's have a look at the card that just happened over the last weekend. UFC Fight Night 131. Marlon Moraes knocked out Jimmy Rivera in the first round. Took him about 33 seconds. I haven't seen the fight yet. It's been recommended to me. I can't find it anywhere. Luckily for those of you who have Fight Pass, and for the rest of us that just pirate it, we can find it somewhere. I'll let you know. I did steal that joke, I'll admit it. Anyway, also on the card, Ben Saunders came back and TKO'd Jake Ellenberger, the usually tough as hell Jake Ellenberger. Hopefully we can see Ben Saunders against Colby Covington. They had a little bit of a spat, if you will. Anyway, Smiling Sam Alvey got a decision over Gian Vellante, which I don't know why, but every time Sam Alvey wins, it makes me happy. I want to see this guy. I want to see him fight everybody. I want to see him come down to the cage, sing into Train, kiss his wife, go in, cause a bunch of blood and guts and mayhem. And I want to see him do that with the best in the world. What's Gastelum doing? There's a fun fight. It doesn't serve any other purpose, but that's a fun fight. Bilal Muhammad decisioned Chance. I can't read my own writing here, but Bilal Muhammad, remember the name. Jamred Brooks, this was the one fight I have seen, and I'm happy I saw it. Jose Shorty Torres made his UFC debut. I've followed him a little bit on social media, and he took on Janred Brooks, or Janred, it could be a soft J. And Janred Brooks knocked himself out with a big slam to Shorty Torres. If you haven't seen it, go out and find it. It's brilliant. Anyway, what else is in the news? Andrea Lee and her Nazi husband. Andrea Lee recently made her a successful UFC debut. UFC Fight Night 129, where she decisioned Veronica Macedo. Again, terrible writing. Got the fight of the night. It was a fun fight. But recently, photos of her husband, Donnie Aaron, who also happens to be her trainer, a photo came out of them enjoying some time on the lake. She was wearing, I think, a star-spangled bikini, and he was wearing his board shorts. A few tattoos were showing, most notably a swastika just here on his left arm, and some Nazi SS bolts right here. Andrea Lee came out with a tweet, she's since deleted it, that said we're not, something along the lines of, we're not racist, we live with an Asian and a black guy, and then she proceeded to call everyone sensitive ass mofos. Donnie Aaron, he said that he has these tattoos from his time in prison, that they're not racist, that Andrea Lee would never marry him or give him the time of day had he been a racist. He did say that it all comes from when he was a misspent 20s. He was in prison at the time. I couldn't find what for. Didn't really look it up, so hand in hand, I guess. But yeah, he said it's all from his past life. He's reinvented himself, and a lot of people through social media offered him solutions such as laser removal, cover-ups, but Aaron said that those aren't options for him. He says that he speaks to at-risk youths, he's active in his church, and I thought maybe he uses them to prove a point that He's got him on his skin. But it's just there to serve the purpose of his argument. Which I think you can get rid of and be like, yeah, I've done some stupid shit. I had swastikas, but they're covered up now. It still sort of serves the same purpose. As for Andrea Lee calling everyone sensitive ass mofos, I get that we live in a very politically correct age right now. It's 2018. You can't sneeze without hurting someone's feelings or offending someone. I think that, I really do. It's just you got Nazi shit tattooed on you. I think it's okay to get offended at that. Like, he's a Nazi. If he's not a Nazi now, he was a Nazi. So it's a pretty scumbag move by him to have him. I'm sure he's doing well now, but come on, just laser that shit off. But I do like the argument. Well, we live with a black guy now. If you've seen Roots, so did Tom Lee. He lived with a black guy too. Anyway, just a bit of fun there. Here's some more bad news. The UFC were planning on doing a lightweight tournament, sort of style, much like the Bellator Grand Prix, involving UFC lightweight champ Khabib Nurmagomedov, him versus Conor McGregor for the title, and on the other side of the brackets would be George St. Pierre versus Nate Diaz. Which, damn, that sounds exciting, until you hear that GSP and Nate, they both said, no, I'm not interested. George also said his ulcer in his stomach is still not clear. His quote was, "It's better, but he's still not 100%." Excuse me. Conor still has a few little legal issues from his Brooklyn theatrics. Khabib and his team, they're pushing for GSP straight up, said that would be a great legacy fight. But someone from UFC, I think, said that Khabib versus Conor could still happen, and likely for in Las Vegas in fall. American fall, here it would be spring. I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun idea. I think that if they'd done it, they may as well just book Khabib versus GSP. That's what's going to happen. GSP's going to come out and trounce Nate, much like he did Nick, and then Khabib is Nate Diaz showed Conor's lack of ground game. Imagine what Khabib would do to him. Khabib would kill him. So just book Khabib versus GSP. Save us the time. I get it. Drag it out. Make your money. But give us the fight we want. Give us the fight that's going to happen. Anyway, here's some fun news. Yair Rodriguez was unfired recently. I think on my last show I talked about Rodriguez getting fired for not taking fights. To quote Dana White, "I have no use for a guy like that." Apparently, Yair Rodriguez and Sean Shelby had a sit down and discussed, him coming back. And he will now be fighting Zabit Magomedov. I've been working on that name all day. I got it right every other time until right now. Magomedov. Apparently they're going to be fighting in Moscow. That was the fight that Rodriguez apparently ducked in the first place. I don't know, maybe, I'm pretty sure he didn't get his money back. I think it was just the UFC bullying their way into getting what they wanted by saying, "You won't do what we want, you're fired." and then we'll let you come back, but you're going to play ball our way. Which, fair enough, he signed a contract. And he was the one not upholding it as far as I can tell. But it's a fun fight. I think Zabit's going to smash him, but maybe we'll wait till we're a bit closer. At UFC 225 coming up this weekend, which we'll do some breakdowns in a bit. But my headline here is Covington versus Whittaker. Colby, who'll be fighting Rafael dos Anjos, and we'll be breaking down this fight for the interim title. And Robert Whittaker is fighting Yoel Romero, defending his middleweight title. But Colby says that his American top team, Yoel Romero, doesn't get the job done. Colby will move up to middleweight and smash Robert Whittaker. Colby also said that he wants to win the lightweight, welterweight and middleweight titles, be the first man in history to win titles in 3 separate divisions in the UFC. Says that he'd ragdoll Khabib, and that Whittaker isn't that impressive. He did say that he wouldn't fight Yoel Romero because they're teammates and he likes the guy. But if Yoel doesn't win, Colby will fight Whittaker. Which, it's all a bunch of bullshit, anything that Colby says, really. But, you know, I'm talking about him. People are talking about him. MMA Junkie, Bloody Elbow. Everyone's writing fucking stories about him. Bleacher Report and everything. So, good job to Colby. Everyone's talking about him. And he talked his way into an interim title fight. Chael Sonnen should be calling him Mini-Me, honestly. But anytime Colby says anything and talks trash and talks shit, I always think of how at one point he said, no, I'm just doing a bit. And then I think of his most recent fight against Damian Maia, where Damian Maia, the jiu-jitsu ground fighter, cut him with his pillow hands. So yay Colby, I guess. Here's some fun news. Finally, some good news. Michael Venom Page, who's fights over in Bellator, coming off a big win, a very impressive win over caveman Dave Rickles. He's returning to fight on the 15th of June, real soon. He just fought last week and he's going to fight again in what's that, 2 week? A 2 week turnover? I don't know if you saw the fight. I hope you did. But Venom Page he got a verbal submission over Caveman Rickles in the second round. They come out. Page hits him one time, just over the eye. Rickles starts bleeding everywhere and starts waving over to the referee saying, "I'm done." It was a great performance by Venom Page. But he won't be returning to mixed martial arts. He'll be doing his second boxing fight. It'll be a 4-round bout on the undercard of a David Haye promoted fight, which will be headlined by Olympic silver medalist and Commonwealth heavyweight champion Joe Joyce. There's no opponent yet named for Joe Joyce, which sort of tells you the quality of the guy that David Haye is lining up for Joe Joyce. Let's call it what is it? It's a tomato can. But MVP's opponent, his name is unimportant, really. Michael Siach. He has a record of 1 win and 5 losses. His 1 win is by knockout, and since his 1 win, he's been on a 5-fight losing streak. Scott Coker came out when asked and said he has no problems with Venom Page doing boxing, but would like to see him more active in MMA, which I think all of us would. Page, of course, is 1-0 in boxing with 1 knockout, with a third-round TKO over Jonathan Castano, which Venom Page was in control the entire fight. Didn't look to be in any trouble. I doubt he'd get into any trouble in this upcoming fight. I'd like to see him take on someone who's going to offer him a bit more of a challenge. No offence to Michael, who gives a crap, but 1-5 against this killer, it's not going to be competitive, but I'll still be tuning in. But yeah, why not get him up in some ranks, or just stick to MMA? I'd like to see him over there. What do you fight at? He fights at welterweight. Let's just put him versus Rory Mack. Let's face it. Page is undefeated. Rory Mack, always a fun fight. Anytime Rory Mack comes out. Anytime Venom Page comes out, fun fight. So why not put them together? Anyway, here's some more bad news in boxing. Or some bad news in boxing. I think the last one was still pretty good. Venom Page is going to be there. But let's get into the bad news. There will be no Triple G versus Canelo rematch, according to Oscar De La Hoya, who promotes Canelo. Alvarez apparently has ended the negotiations because Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, he wanted to do a 50-50 split for the upcoming fight. And Alvarez said no. Excuse me, thirsty work. Alvarez and his team, they said that they're looking at Danny Jacobs, the former WBA middleweight champ. They'll be fighting in September 15. Jacobs famously dropped a decision to Triple G. They had their, as I'm sure you're aware, Triple G and Canelo had fought to a draw in May last year, and so they fought to a draw. I'm not sure when. Then the rematch was scheduled for May this year, but it was cancelled because Alvarez failed 2 drug tests. And in that time, Triple G defended his titles against someone that no one's going to remember the name of anyway. But for the first fight, Triple G agreed to a 70-30 split in favour of Alvarez. And De La Hoya said that he'd be okay with doing 60-40 at best. But the rematch was originally scheduled, agreed upon rather, to have a 65-35 split in favour of Canelo Alvarez. De La Hoya saying, I'm okay with 60-40. It sounds nice, it's just De La Hoya's got to remember his fighter is the... so Triple G got robbed, and De La Hoya's fighter failed 2 drug tests. Alright, and you can blame all the Mexican meat you want, you still failed the drug tests. That's the big takeaway. So maybe go 50-50. You're going to make enough money to cover all your expenses and all that other bullshit. So just do the fight everyone wants. Fighting Danny Jacobs, who's a decent middleweight and a decent fighter and everything. It's mostly about saving face. Like, no, well, we're still going to fight a strong opponent. It's just you're not giving the people the fight that they deserve. But at the same time, maybe, just kind of in my head, maybe De La Hoya does need to do a bigger split for Alvarez so that he can get the money to pay off the judges again, or pay off a commission to get Adelaide Bird to watch the goddamn fight, or I don't know, play on her phone at ringside. I don't know what she does, she doesn't watch the fight, does she? Anyway, more bad news for Triple G. I think I read today he was stripped of his IBF title because he didn't agree to face Sergey Derevanchenko or whatever. Sergey will be fighting someone else for the vacant title at a later date. Hasn't been said who. It's just the IBF said that they'll hold off a mandatory challenge while he fought in May against, again, Vanez, whatever, who cares. But this was the last straw for not taking the Sergey fight, which, when it rains it pours, huh, Gennady? Sticking with boxing, Tyson Fury will be beating Seferi this weekend on the 9th. You're this lineal champion, the Rings magazine poster boy and everything, and personal problems aside and all that stuff. Why are you fighting this guy? Why are you fighting this guy that nobody gives a shit? Everyone knows what's going to happen. I would love if the dude with the same first and last name, if he came in and just put all of it into one punch and knocked Tyson Fury out. Got rid of that big goose egg on his record. Added a 1 there. Because, honestly, fuck Tyson Fury. He's I don't know if he's overrated or anything. I haven't watched any of his fights. He got big. He became world champion during the most boring time for heavyweight fighting, which, thanks to him, is looking a little bit more exciting. But he should have fought Shannon the Cannon or Tony Bellew, maybe, who he said was too small because he's a cruiserweight, and now he's fighting Seferi, who I have to look and read his name every time because I'm not going to remember it after I read it. There's no point. But anyway, Seferi is a cruiserweight, and he wouldn't fight a decent cruiserweight because he's a cruiserweight, and here we are. Also this weekend, Jeff Horn will be defending his WBO welterweight championship against Terence Crawford. I was going to break this fight down, but I think Crawford's going to win. That's my breakdown. I don't know how, but give it to Crawford. But big news for that put women's boxing in the news. Cecilia Breakhouse, which I'm probably pronouncing just a little bit wrong enough that I'm getting it wrong, but right enough that I can get away with it. Apparently there's been talks about Breakhouse fighting UFC champ Cyborg Santos, which should be good because you've got the best in the world at women's boxing versus the best in the world in UFC. Cecilia is the WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO and IBO champion, and holds a 33-0 record with 9 knockout wins. Cyborg, current UFC champ and former Strikeforce champ. Cyborg has said that she'd need more training if she was to go into boxing, and that Breakhouse said on Instagram in a post that I think it would be more competitive than Mayweather vs McGregor, which maybe, hopefully. Cyborg commented on that post and said, "You called me out, ... Now you're saying I need more fights. I don't want a boxing career. I just want grow the sport. WMMA can help W boxing." So, probably not likely to happen, but it'd be good, wouldn't it? It'd be fun. It's a big fight. If you're a fight fan, that's a fun fight. If you're a boxing fan, you probably hate it. If you're an MMA fan, you'll tune in. But as a fight fan, as a Cyborg fan, as a boxing fan, I haven't seen a lot of Breakhouse's work, but I do like watching Cyborg beat women up. So I don't think that'll happen here. This will be a lot more exciting than as far as the fight goes, than Maymac, than the money fight. Probably more competitive, I agree. Hopefully they can get something done, but let's focus on Cyborg versus Nunez first. Please, we've waited long enough. Anyway, that's all the news I've got. But I've got a good couple of breakdowns here for the UFC card coming up, as I get a little bit more comfortable. The first one is the co-main event for the welterweight interim championship between Rafael Dos Anjos and Colby Covington. We'll start with the blue corner, Colby Covington. 5'11", 170 pounds. Most likely make the weight. Amateur wrestler, they make the weight all the time. 72-inch reach and 30 years old. Acts like a snotty 16-year-old though. Colby also holds a record of 13 wins and 1 loss, coming off a decision win over Damian Maia. Dos Anjos, 5'8", a little bit shorter, 170 pounds, 70-inch reach, and 33 years old. 28-9 record. His last fight was a decision win over Robbie Lawler, which was a tremendous fight. Their styles very different. Covington wrestling, and excuse me, my legs are killing me down here. And Covington is a wrestler. Dos Anjos, Muay Thai mostly, does a very good with his jiu-jitsu, and has been putting boxing into his repertoire. They're both southpaws. Excuse me, a little bit of tidying up down here. They're both southpaws. Their team, we'll start there. Covington, of course, American Top Team. Dos Anjos with the RVCA gym. Covington is a NCAA Division I wrestler. Dos Anjos is a 3rd degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu and a 3rd degree black belt in Muay Thai. Covington's championships include NCAA Division I wrestling out of Oregon, and a Pac-10 champion. I'm not sure what that means, but you know, it's wrestling. He's got a few others, a FILA, F-I-L-A championship or something. Dos Anjos, though, he's only got one written here. Apparently he's got some jiu-jitsu accolades, but he's got one here, and it says UFC lightweight champ, which probably better than anything that Covington's ever won. Bigger, anyway. In their last 5 fights, Covington's gone 5-0. Dos Anjos 3-2. One of those was losing the title to Eddie Alvarez. But when you have a look at him, Covington he's got consistent pace, consistent pressure. He applies it very well. Despite all my knocking and all my he's a dickhead stuff, and all of his I'm a dickhead stuff, he's a well-conditioned athlete. He's always going to come in shape. He's a bit of a tool, but you can't knock the guy's conditioning and all that. He's improved his striking, is one that I read, which the first thing I thought of was Damian Maia. How improved is it? But that doesn't matter. His takedowns are his bread and butter. That's going to be the story of the fight, I think. And if he doesn't get a takedown, he chains them together very well. He puts his takedowns together. He has a mean top game. He'll pin you down. and hold you in place to, strike you, punch you in the face, elbows, or to set up a submission. Either way, he likes to ride the wrists. I noticed. I just watched a few highlights. Rides a lot of wrists, but a little thing going in on him. He's 3-0 against southpaws. Both guys here being southpaws. He relies very heavily on his wrestling, and he consistently takes opponents down and controls them there. So I think it's easy to know what he's going to be looking to do. Dos Anjos, on the other hand, he also sets a good pace, puts on a lot of pressure. He's a very intelligent and aggressive fighter, like at the same time. Picks his shots, doesn't stop. Mean tie kicks. Likes to attack the body mostly. He has very good takedowns against the fence. He likes to put on the pressure, come forward, back his opponent up, and take him down from the fence. I don't know if he'll be able to do that against Colby though. He's very good, a very strong positional grappler on the ground, and he likes to smash and pass. Really, he looks to beat you up to get into position. And he's 5-1 versus southpaws in the UFC, so they're both going to be good at it. And his getting up off his back has improved that a lot. He's very aggressive, high volume striking game. He's very strong as well. He's physically strong. Good takedowns, probably not as good as Colby's. He likes to swarm with his kicks and his feints, get inside, put you up against the cage and take you down. He's got a mean left kick to the body and a right hook to the head. And he uses the right hook, the left kick, and his movements to limit his opponent's lateral movements and put them on the cage, try to shut down their game a little bit, put them on the cage. He has very good boxing. His ground and pound is excellent, and he's a high-level jiu-jitsu player. And I think that if Dos Anjos can, avoid takedown attempts, fight it off, if it does go down, get back to his feet, and he can land his shots, again, that left body kick, right hook, we're looking at an RDA win. But if Colby can score that takedown and hold him down, and consistently hold him down and ride him for 5 rounds, he takes a decision. I don't think he's going to stop Dos Anjos because he's tough as hell. And I don't know, Colby ain't known for his stopping power. But if RDA can catch him early, implement his game plan, and avoid the takedowns, we're looking at an RDA knockout win. But the longer the fight goes, I think the better chance Colby has. So I'm probably going to say Colby by decision, but I really hope I'm wrong on that. I would love for someone to shut Colby Covington up. But chances are Colby comes out and takes it. Or Chael Sonnen 2.0 comes out and takes this one. But let's move on to the main event. Yoel Romero will be trying to take the undisputed middleweight championship off of Robert Whittaker for the second fight. He will start with the blue corner again. Yoel Romero is 6 foot, 185 pounds, 73.5 inch, and 41 years old. Whittaker, 5'11", 185, 73.5 reach, and 27 years old. Romero holds a record of 13-2, and his last fight was a knockout win over Luke Rockhold. Robert Whittaker, he's 19-4. His last win was a decision over Yoel Romero. Romero is a freestyle wrestler and kickboxer, mostly freestyle wrestling though. Robert Whittaker, his style that I read was karate, hapkido, boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. Whittaker is orthodox, Romero southpaw. Romero fights at an American Top Team in Florida. Whittaker, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Stand Strong Boxing, and the Bulldog Gym. The ranks that they've won is Olympic freestyle wrestling is for your Romero. Robert Whittaker though is a black belt in hapkido, black belt in Goju Ryo karate, and a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and Commonwealth Games level wrestler. If you have a look at the championships, we'll go with Romero. Olympic silver in 2000 Sydney Olympics. 1 gold, 2 silvers and 2 bronze in the World Wrestling Championships. And 3 golds in the World Wrestling Cup. Whittaker, UFC middleweight champion, interim champion. He won the Ultimate Fighter Smashes and was the Super Fight Australia welterweight champ. Also, he won the Australian Cup in wrestling, Australian Nationals in wrestling, and he did qualify for this year's 2018 Commonwealth Games. In their last 5, Romero 4-1, with that 1 being a decision loss to Robert Whittaker. Whittaker, of course, 5-0. Romero, I've got written here rather that Robert Whittaker has knockout power, has 10 knockout wins. But having said that, I think Romero's got more power, and not just because he has 11 wins, it's just like my fiance, just look at him. But yeah, he's an incredibly athletic, he's agile as hell, is Romero. Quick at closing distance, and has deceptive changes in tempo. He'll fight slow, he'll lull you into a rhythm, and then just pounce on you, just attack. He fakes and then hits you with a flying knee. Good left cross, right hooks. Real good head movement. Like, every time I think of a wrestler, I think of like this clunky guy that's coming in there, but every time I get surprised by the athleticism. But head movement, some of the best wrestling maybe in the UFC right now, I don't know, but like arguably. It's difficult to control on the ground, in the clinch, standing, and almost impossible to hold down. Whereas Whittaker, knockout power again, very good footwork, maintains his distance, uses his karate for footwork and distance. He has very quick and deceptive blitzes, which I think comes from the karate background, the in and out style of fighting. He has very decent left hook, very accurate with it. He's got very good angles. He's a little hard to read, a little hard to figure out. And he's very good at disrupting his opponent's rhythm. He's got good wrestling. I think that I'm not sure how much of a factor that's going to be with Romero. Improved grappling. He's also 2-0 versus UFC southpaws, and a very unique striker. Whittaker, he likes to use his kicks to set up his hooks, his overhands, and he should be coming into this fight healthier than in their first fight. So that's something to look for. They've both got very fast hands, and even if he can be healthier, he can plant a little bit more on that left leg and get his shots off. He still really needs to respect Romero's power, Romero's strengths. Romero is definitely more intimidating. He moves like a superhero. He doesn't just look like it. but he moves like a superhero. Romero, he gets you into that rhythm. He lulls you, and then he pounces on you. He's very good at that. But if Whittaker can put his weight on his leg, work off his jab rather, he can win. Probably round 3, it's usually his best round. But I think Yoel can win at any time. I'd like Robert Whittaker to win. Be right back. Sorry about that. My son fell out of bed. Very loud bang. He's fine though. Don't worry about it. So my predictions were, just to recap, Colby Covington by a decision, and hopefully Robert Whittaker stops him in the 3rd round. I did, however, put my money on Yoel Romero because he was the underdog and he was paying better. It's usually how I bet. So now I'd like to just talk a little bit, or a lot, about my new favourite sport, bare knuckle boxing, that just recently was legalised and sanctioned in the US for the first time since 1889. The boxers where'd they fight? They fought in Cheyenne, Wyoming, at the Cheyenne Ice and Events Center. Apparently, it was packed out. Even the upper deck was full, which is pretty surprising. They sold a lot of pay-per-views, had a lot of viewers. They fought in a 22-foot ring. It's in a circle with 4 ropes. The fighters were allowed to fight in the clinch with dirty boxing. Again, just hands, just fists. No knees, no elbows, no kicks, no wrestling. And they start about a foot away from each other. They step up to a line. And every fight was 5 rounds at 2 minutes apiece. The thumbs and the wrists could be taped, but they had to keep an inch from the knuckle. So, true bare knuckle boxing. Over in England, they've got UB Bad, which they're in a legal grey area because they call it bare knuckle. They're not wearing gloves, but they do have hand wraps on. But they're doing a heavyweight tournament. I've watched a couple of the fights from the event. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships #1, and my new favourite sport, hands down, no argument, nothing. And they had their heavyweight tournament to determine a champion. So 8 men in the tournament, 4 have won. They'll be fighting in September. In the semi-finals, and then in December they'll be competing for we'll have the finals. Winner gets 50 grand, which in December, just before Christmas, is just really good timing. Here are the results. If you don't want spoilers, I know turn this off, but watch the whole thing. Obviously, just block your ears. Then I'll do this when I'm done. Anyway, Arnold Adams defeated DJ Lindemann. TKO'd him in the second when the doctor stopped it. Esteban Payan defeated Omar Avelar, knocked him out in the first. Maurice Jackson defeats Dale Soppy, TKO in the first. Reggie Barnett decisions Travis Thompson. Johnny Bedford defeated Nick Mamalis by TKO in round 2. Bobby Gunn defeated Uranu Beto Costa Jr., knocked him out in the first. Sam Shoemaker knocked out Eric Prindle with the first punch of the whole fight. Beck Rollins defeated Alma Garcia, TKO'd her in the second. Joey Beltran won a unanimous decision over Tony Lopez. And in the main event, Rico Rodriguez defeated Lewis Rumsey by decision. We'll have a look at a couple of the fights. The bantamweights, Reggie Barnett and Travis Thompson, they went to war. They did a lot of speed, a lot of aggression, mostly in the clinch. But from all accounts, went to war. I haven't seen it yet, I haven't found it. Bobby Gunn, I watched Bobby Gunn's fight. He made quick work of Beto Costas Jr. with body shots. Bobby, before the fight, he said he was going to use about 40% to protect his fists. Might have lied about that, because he stopped doing about 40 seconds. And I don't know, it was a weird fight. He threw almost nothing but body shots. You can see him setting up like this and throwing a body with the shot that won. It's just, Bobby Gunn's always been a bit fishy, you know. He has definite mob ties. According to 60 Minutes anyway, they did a little story on bare knuckle boxing underground, and the guy that he done it all through was a former mob guy in New York or wherever the hell. I'm not calling it a fix. I'm just leaning in that direction, you know. It definitely smelt a bit fishy. Sam Shoemaker, he one punch knockout of the former Bellator champion Eric Prindle, which is on our Facebook page if you want to see it. He just puts him down. You watch Prindle when he hits the floor, he's trying to cover his head, waiting for the follow-up that doesn't come. It was great. The best fight though that I've watched so far was Joey Beltran versus Tony Lopez. It was awesome. Beltran knocks Lopez down in the first, but they fought 2 times previously in MMA, and Beltran knew not to get excited, not to get emotional, and just stick to what he was doing, which he did. He boxed technically. It was mostly in the clinch, was the fight, but it was still very fun. There's blood everywhere, which, if you don't like blood, this ain't the sport for you. I think one of the commentators might say that. The commentators they got were, for the whole event, was Sean Wheelock from Bellator and former world champion Antonio Tarver. So I thought that was really cool. But Lopez, despite getting outboxed throughout, he was never out of the fight. It was a very close fight, I thought. I thought Beltran won the first fight 10-8, took 2, 3, and 4, 10-9. But Lopez, credit to his resiliency, I think he won the last round. But I like that there's some history, that now they've each got wins over each other, and I know Lopez has 2 wins, but I'd watch those guys fight every week if they'd let them. But after that fight, which got a standing ovation from the Cheyenne crowd, there was a lot of pressure on the main event between Rico Rodriguez and Lewis Rumsey to deliver, but in comparison, it was something of a letdown after Beltran and Lopez, and a lot of clinching, and like a lot of clinching into a decision that you would expect from a pair of heavyweights. I think that the biggest takeaway from the whole thing was it was a success. It was fun to watch. The doctors, the referee, the cut man, Stitch Duran. They all did their job well. They made sure it was safe. They looked after everybody. If someone was hurt, they stopped a fight. They didn't do anything premature. They didn't screw anybody, except for maybe Bobby Gunn's opponent. Just saying. But there was quite the injury list, which I thought I'd take note of, because bare knuckle boxing, there's got to be a long list of injuries. We'll start at the top of the card. Rico Rodriguez has been suspended for 30 days. Lewis Rumsey also 30 days. Joe Beltran suspended indefinitely, and must be cleared by a doctor for facial lacerations. Tony Lopez indefinitely checked by a doctor. Face and ear lacerations. Beck Rawlings, I haven't seen her fight yet. I've been trying to find it. Also indefinitely suspended. Possibly has a broken hand. Her opponent Alma Garcia indefinitely facial lacerations and a possible broken nose. Sam Shoemaker, who threw and landed one punch the whole fight, got 7-day suspension. Eric Prindle, 60-day suspension. Bobby Gunn got a 7-day suspension. Beto Costa Jr., indefinite suspension and possible concussion, which it doesn't. I've watched the fight a couple of times. It doesn't actually look like Bobby Gunn touches Beto's head with any power. I think he hits him with a left hook once. Doesn't look like there's a lot on it, as Beto Costa's already fallen to the ground. So, again, I'm not saying there was a fix. Anyway, Johnny Bedford, indefinite for a broken right hand. Nick Mamalis, indefinite for left eye lacerations. Reggie Barnett, indefinite for possible broken hands, both of them. Travis Thompson, indefinite, left eye lacerations. Maurice Jackson got 30 days. Dale Soapy, I don't know, 60 days. Estevan Payan, 30 days. Omar Avalath, 60. Arnold Adams, 30 days. And DJ Lindemann died. No, he got indefinite for left eye suspensions. That's 10 indefinite medical suspensions, which, I mean, had to see that coming, right? And MMA Junkie done a poll asking, did this bare knuckle event hurt MMA in any way? I read a little bit of their article about how mixed martial arts has come so far since the no-hold bar days, where Senator John McCain was coming out saying it's human cockfighting, coming out and being forced to the underground and all that. But their poll, 62% of people said, no, this doesn't hurt MMA. 38% said, yes, it does. I don't know how. I mean, I can see people being like, oh, well, MMA, this is MMA fighters and this and that. It's still different. No MMA promotions anywhere near this. You got former MMA guys, they're bare knuckle guys now, aren't they? But hopefully, what I'm looking forward to is hopefully they can get some BKB guys from America and some BKB guys from the English promotion. Maybe do some cross promotion. Over in England, Diesel Joe Riggs, former UFC fighter, he's their champion. I don't remember what weight class, I think middleweight. Bring him over. I know he's already an American and probably closer to Cheyenne than he is to London. Let's get him. Let's get Jimmy McRory, Michael Terrell, James Sweeney, McSweeney rather. He's a bad dude. Let's have him fight Lane for a third time, and then let's bring him over here. Let's bring him. I look forward to watching more. I thought best thing since sliced bread. or since MMA, which was just before sliced bread, just after rather, whatever. Anyway, that's all the show I've got. Hopefully, you guys will see me next week. So, till then, bore bore.